Hello and welcome to Divorced Women Creating Peace. I am your host, Velma Gallant, and I'm super excited to have you here along with my special guest, Julie Musial. So, for the past 14 years as a business marketing strategist and master certified business consultant, Julie has mentored thousands of small business owners and entrepreneurs on how to grow their businesses. She's a speaker and three-time published author with the #1 bestseller in digital online marketing. She created Musial Consulting Group to teach small business owners and agencies who provide digital marketing services how to generate more revenue and grow their businesses. And so I really wanted to make sure that you saw who Julie really is. That's why I have her professional bio for you. I know that we are speaking to divorced women and talking about the lives that they created after the divorce. I wanted you to know who Julie was coming in and why I chose to interview her, because she really has created a beautiful life for herself after divorce. So welcome to the show, Julie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. So I know a little bit of your personal story, and I'm grateful that you shared that with me. And what I want to provide to our listeners is we're going to start with our first question, which I think is a really important and valuable question. What was your most valuable lesson from your divorce, and what made that so valuable for you?
What I would say, and I don't even have to think twice to answer that. The most valuable lesson is if you have kids and you're going through a divorce, it's all about the kids because the kids didn't choose the divorce, the parents did. So when I was contemplating my divorce, I set up a home-based business so that I could be there for them because divorce is so hard on kids. I think when we're in the moment of it, divorce is so hard on us, but it's even harder on the kids, and it's easy to lose sight of that. So I set it up so that everything was about those kids. Everything. My social life, I kind of put aside so that I could take care of my kids and be there for them. Now they range from 26 to 29, and I can tell that they have some scars from divorce, but had I not been there for them as much as I was, I believe it would be much more significant. So it's if I can tell anyone anything going through a divorce with kids, be there for them. They really need you.
They really do. And I know I resonate deeply with that. I did not have the home based business. I had uh, opened up the door to a career which gave me the financial resources to be able to leave my marriage and be able to care for my son no matter what happened. So sometimes we don't always get to make all of the decisions and all of the choices that we want, and we have to discern which is the most important piece for us to pay attention to. I know my son was 14 at the time when his dad and I separated. So yeah, so how is it, like, I get what you're saying about making it about the children, because even for myself, as my son got older, it really was about how can I support him emotionally, and while he was in my home financially and everything like that. What was it? What was it you wanted to create for them?
What I wanted to create for them was to keep their life as normal as possible. So I stayed in the family house and I made sure that I was at every ball game because they were in all kinds of sports. Didn't miss any of that. If some overlapped, their dad would go to one and I'd go to the other one, but that rarely happened. So to keep their life as normal as possible. My kids were 11 and 14. That's a tough, those are both tough ages. I think that's middle school and high school, just a really, really tough age. So to try to keep things as normal as possible because nothing's normal and they don't feel normal anymore. and they feel like their life's being ripped apart. And I don't know if this was so much my kids, but I've heard that kids think that it could have been their fault. So I think it's really important to make sure that they know that it's not their fault and just to be there with them. Um, when I got divorced, I wasn't, there was no one else in my life. I got divorced because I needed to get a divorce. And as far as my going out with friends, I did not do that until much later because I wanted that life to be normal, to be there for them. So we still went, I would take them to theme parks. I would still do all of the normal things, take them up north, camping, bought some fishing poles for my son, even though I didn't know how to even string them up. But we figured that out. We stopped at a sporting goods store and had them do it. But it was a matter of keeping it as normal as possible for them.
I love that, and again, I connect to that quite deeply. I know I myself learned how to play World of Warcraft so that I could do something with my son and be a part of something that he enjoyed. We had kids over. I remember having my kitchen table. I had four boys sitting at my kitchen table with their giant monitors, their desktop computers on the floor, all playing games. One of the things that I loved when he was younger was the sound of all the kids in my home. And thankfully, I was able to keep a lot of that kind of thing as close to normal as possible while he was growing up. And I know one of the things that I chose when it came to trying to keep things as level as possible, I guess is a good way to put it, was reminding my son that he was not responsible for the relationship between his parents, but that he was only responsible for the relationship with each of them individually.
Right.
Is that something that you encountered with respect to your children as well?
Um, One of the things that I did with my kids, because of course you end up sharing time, which is
Mhm,
very strange for your kids. So
mhm.
I talked about fishing because my son loved to fish and hunt with his dad. One of the things that I did was I don't hunt. I tried to learn how to fish, but that was pretty humorous. And my son thought it was humorous, but he knew I tried. So even when it was my time, if my son asked me, "Mom, Dad's going hunting or Dad's going fishing, and I know it's my weekend with you, would it be okay if I went?" I'd let him go. I'd let him go on my time because to me, it wasn't my time, it was his time. The way I look at it is it was his life and I chose it,
Mm.
he didn't. So if that's what he wanted to do, it wasn't because he didn't care for me as much, but I wanted him to be able to experience life the way he would have wanted to experience it. Because if it wasn't for the divorce, he would have been going fishing or hunting or doing whatever.
I
So it
love
just,
that.
yeah, it was, I missed him, but I think now that they're adults in their 20s, they have a lot of stability because there wasn't that infighting of, well, it's my time, it's your time.
I love that. And what I'm hearing is that you were you're basically empowering your children to be able to make the choices that they want, that they would like to make, and it's teaching them to make decisions, teaching them to make choices.
Right. If they wanted to.
I love that.
Absolutely.
What kind of
Absolutely.
support, other than, like, I'm hearing that you organized your life in a way so that you could be a better support to your children and making those choices for them, knowing that there's going to come a point in the process where you'd be able to make more choices for yourself, right? So I respect and appreciate that. What other kind of support did you bring in for yourself during that time?
For myself, I'm a huge reader, and before I even got divorced, I got a team of people, a counselor. I talked to a counselor for me. I had a counselor for my kids. I had a couple really close friends that helped me get through it. So I felt like I had a team between my
Mhm.
attorney and the two counselors. They really helped me to know what to do. And even my attorney gave me some great advice of just how to handle the kids. And I listened to them because I knew that they were professionals, where I certainly didn't know how to navigate those waters. So I listened to them. So, and whenever I needed to, I think one thing I see that I did not do is I never badmouthed their dad to them
Mhm.
because they don't get it. And regardless of who the other parent is, the child still loves them. And so I chose not to do that. If I needed to do any of that, it would be with someone else, not my kids. But, and also I made sure that their grandparents, my parents, were in their life a lot. That gave them a lot of stability because they loved their grandmother. And so, we'd go to grandma's house and it still was grandma's house. And we would do things with grandma and we would do things with friends. And it just, you have to keep those people involved.
I love that. I love that. What I heard is, one, you took advantage. One of the things that I think is really important, for any of us, both, when it comes to our children and ourselves, is that we deserve the support of a counselor. We deserve
Hmm.
the support of that team that you brought in for that.
Hmm.
I really love that you brought that kind of support in for yourself and your children. The other thing that I really appreciate and respect is the choosing not to disparage the other parent.
Hmm.
That I made the same decision. I mean, I'll be completely transparent. For the first 6 months, I was not so clean on that. And as I grew in my strength and healing, that was something that was really clear to me, that was very important. And there was a point there where it was like, okay, this is never happening again. And it never did. Never did. There were times where my son had to deal with things, and it was just, I'm sorry. I don't know why those decisions were made. And your dad loves you. And
Everyone has moments. We're only human.
exactly, exactly. One of the things that was in the forefront for me as I made these choices, and there were other things that occurred that allowed better openings for that, was that there's going to come a point where my children may get married, may have children, and I never wanted my son, I only have the one son, thankfully. I never wanted him to have to juggle his parents. Not everybody has that opportunity. And I really want to point that out because I know not everybody has the opportunity. Sometimes things just don't go the way we would hope. But that was something that was in the forefront for me, that I didn't want to be contributing to that kind of experience for my
Right.
child.
I think people do the best they can with what they have. We are all different, and every situation is different.
Hmm. That was another thing that, when you're talking about never saying anything about the other parent, when things came up, it was, my response was, you got the best out of both of us. You got the best qualities out of both of us, because I never wanted my son to feel less than because he was half his dad. I wanted him
Right,
to know that who he was the best of both of us. Because I mean, I know
right.
I'm not perfect. There's things in me that are not, of the best quality. I mean, I'm as human as the rest of us. Like I said, that first 6 months, I was not the best behaving when it came to certain things that were going on, in the separation. And thankfully, I had, like you, that team around me to support me to come back into alignment and balance, to be able to be the best parent I could be during that transition. And still, even after, my son's 21 now. So even after, I still have to be that best parent that I can be.
Absolutely. And just because they turn 18 or 21 or 25, that still continues where you have to split the holidays
Mhm.
and you have to split the birthdays and stuff like that happens. So it continues. It doesn't stop. And still,
Yeah.
to this day, I bite my tongue when I hear things. I just don't say anything.
Right. I like that. And again, not everybody's circumstances are the same, but I was like you in that I never stopped him from sharing. And because I didn't want him to have to sit and think about what he can share and what he can't share.
Right.
I just wanted him to be open to sharing, because if I stop him talking about one thing, he might stop talking about something else.
Absolutely. Absolutely, for sure. And the thing is, when you have a parent who badmouths the other parent, what happens, what I have seen in my experience is that when that child becomes an adult, they typically will stop responding to that parent that was bad mouthing their other parent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really sad. But I see it happen time and time again where the parent loses them.
Well, and to be quite honest, that kind of behavior can happen inside of the marriage as well. And that
Absolutely.
kind of response from the children can happen inside, even when the parents don't end up getting divorced. So I think it's really important. Those are important qualities for anybody when it comes to supporting their children as they grow up.
Absolutely.
So when your children were grown up and you started making different choices for yourself inside of your life, how did you start making those choices for yourself? I mean, you were already an entrepreneur by that point, by the sounds of it.
Yes. Um, I think I always was able to make those choices. I didn't involve my kids in those choices. I kept things very private from them. To this day, they say to me, "Mom, you're so private." But kids don't have to know everything.
Mm,
It just, once my kids went off to college, once the last one went off to college, that's when I felt like I could branch out. I could start thinking about me more.
okay. And when it came to thinking about you, was that more in the lines of personal entertainment, personal growth? Was it more in your business? Was it a range of that? What were the things that you did for
Uh,
yourself?
it was personal entertainment. It was, dating other people. I didn't want my kids to see that, and I just decided that they didn't need to see it. So I really waited, and anyone that did wanna date me, I'd kinda scare off because I'd say I knew that my kids were the most important thing in my life,
Mhm.
and they knew that there was no future until my kids were off and gone to college, and that's fine. I wouldn't change a thing of how I raised my kids. I
Mhm.
chose to have those kids. They were my responsibility. And
Mm,
time goes fast. When you share your kids with another parent, I mean, time goes fast enough the way it is, much less having to share your kids. And I wanted all the time I could get.
right. So I know for myself, I did choose to do some dating, and I ended up choosing to date when my son with his dad. So those were the clear boundaries that the other person had to accept, because like you, my son was my priority. And it was kind of entertaining because they never got to meet my son for quite some time. Like the first person that I dated never did meet my son. And my son was teasing me. He's like, Mom, I'm not going to get attached to them, like, because he was older. And I knew I didn't have to worry about that. But it was more about my readiness as well, right? Because the way I phrased it to my son was, you're my precious, cue the Lord of the Rings here, but you're my precious, and not everybody gets to be a part of those precious areas of my life. It takes time before they get permitted into that. And and even now with my son's 21, and should I start dating somebody seriously, it's still going to be the same.
Absolutely. I
They're not
totally
going
agree.
to meet him until I'm ready for them to be part of that precious part of my life.
I totally agree with that. And that's why my kids say that I'm private, because if I choose to date someone, they don't meet them,
Mhm.
because I feel as though it has to be much more serious before I would bring someone into their life.
Absolutely. My son will ask me questions and I will answer them honestly, but he's very clear again. He's my precious.
My son is a jokester, so every now and then he'll say to me, and he calls me Mims. So he'll say, "Yo, Mims, you seen anybody these days?"
That's so cute. Yep.
I
But
know.
because we matter as much as they matter to us, we matter to them. And I think that is where it is so beautiful to hear that, because they felt that important to you. So the
Yes.
the the preciousness is works both ways, right? They knew how precious they were to you, and you now, especially as you hear these Mims comments, you know how precious you are to them.
My son just got married 2 weeks ago, and he said to me, "Mom, other than my wife, you're the closest female to me." That melted my heart. I have a really good relationship with all my kids, but it was tougher with a boy because he loved the hunting and fishing and I didn't do that. So it was very emotional. It touched my heart, and like I said, I wouldn't change a thing.
I agree. I know for myself, I was his dad was the fun person, right? And I was completely good with that, because even when we were together, his dad was the fun person and I was the one he came to for the more serious conversations, or the hurt and stuff like that. That was
Mhm.
one thing that for me was really important, is I did permit my son to see that I hurt. And not everybody agrees with me on that one, but I for me, I wanted him to see me heal and grow stronger, because I wanted him to understand that there are going to come times in his life where he is going to hurt, where he's
Mhm.
going to feel weak, and he will heal and he will get stronger. I wanted him to see that and to know that, and to know it was safe to be that with me.
Well, I think it's really important to let kids see you emotional, because if you're never emotional in front of your kids, how do they learn how to be emotional? How do they learn
Mhm.
that it's okay to be emotional? And it's very okay to be emotional. I mean, you have to let things out. We are human beings. We are not robots.
Beautiful. Very well said. Very well said. Um, Is there any last thoughts that you feel are really important to share with the ladies that are watching this today, or when it's archived, when they get
I
to?
would say that, going through a divorce, when you're going through it, it was the worst year of my life. And the next couple years were not that great either, just because it was a high conflict divorce.
Mm-hmm.
But I always used to say to myself, this too shall pass. And don't rush it along because our kids grow up so fast. I remember thinking to myself when my daughters were about 16, I won't have to deal with their dad anymore in 2 years. And then I would stop myself and say, but then they'll be 18 and they'll be all grown up. So don't wish it away too fast. Go through the moment, enjoy the moments of your life. It's a journey. This too shall pass, and everything, your life it'll take different paths throughout your life, but don't wish the time away.
I love that. I love that. And that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense because I know it's really easy to wish for our time.
Mhm.
And that does come soon enough.
Right.
That, I mean, we become empty nesters at some point. So we don't need to, like you say, rush that. Let's find ways to cherish it as we are right now. So I did want to make sure that our listeners and viewers get an opportunity to go find you should they want to connect with you more. And I have your website up on the screen now, and that will be in the comment section when it's up on YouTube and the other areas. And we'll have your contact information there as well. And you have a Facebook group as well, don't you?
I do.
So if somebody goes to Facebook and searches for your organization, they will find your Facebook group.
Yes, the easiest way to find it is to just find my profile, Julie Musial. And if you look right underneath the cover photo is a direct button to my Facebook group. And
Perfect.
in my Facebook group, I do a lot of teaching for business owners.
Brilliant. Because I know there's a lot of us out there that are really, it's quite interesting because I'm finding that a lot of divorced women really do have an entrepreneurial spirit, and it sometimes is triggered because of the divorce, and sometimes it's just there.
Well, it's great to be able to have the flexibility of your schedule through business ownership.
Mm.
So I think that's why it works so well, especially in 2022. Daycare is so expensive. So, and even after school care is so expensive. And then you've got the summer and the holidays. So being able to have a flexible schedule really works well.
It absolutely does. And on the bottom of the screen, there is my Facebook group as well, Divorced Women Creating Peace. And Julie is one of our members. So if you can't find her anywhere else, you will find her inside of our group as well. So you can definitely connect with her there. Thank you so much for your time today, Julie. I really appreciate it. Again, I'm going to let everybody see your website. And we will be back next week with another guest. For those of you who are listening or viewing online, I'd love to see your comments. What made sense to you and what do you have to share? Come on over to facebook.com and find Divorced Women Creating Peace. We would love to connect with you. Thank you and have a brilliant evening. Thanks, Julie.
You're welcome. Bye.